photo?
Yes.
It's called a motor race, okay?
Sorry?
We went car racing.
Hello everyone, this is the Casual Fan. Michael Masi has been the talk of the town for the F1 fans ever since the 2021 Formula 1 season ended. The race director was the epicenter of arguably one of the more dubious endings of a Formula 1 season in a long time. The way in which Masi went out of his way to ensure racing resumed on the last lap of the race has left a bad taste in the mouth of so many fans, with arguably Lewis Hamilton fans being the most outraged bunch of them all. Hashtag Masi out has been trending on social media ever since the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix ended and Max Verstappen was crowned the Formula 1 World Champion. The FIA has not helped either by not being as direct as it could be in its handling, and the lack of clarity has only made things worse. Lewis fans have come out in large numbers demanding Michael Masi's head on a platter, and there have been numerous calls on him being removed from his post as the race director. Now, while the outrage is understandable and the way that FIA has handled everything has made it all the more questionable, will getting rid of Michael Masi right the wrong of what happened at Abu Dhabi? Will it ensure that something like this doesn't happen again? The answer is no, it won't. Firing Michael Masi does not change anything. And in this video we talk about why the suggestions of getting rid of Michael Masi as race director does nothing for the betterment of the sport and is in no way a solution for what happened at Abu Dhabi last season. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves and discuss what really led to the debacle of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, I feel it makes sense that we first clarify a few things. One of the suggestions that has been blatantly made with regards to how the safety car restart was handled is around an inherent favoritism for Max Verstappen. There are suggestions made that the sport did not want Lewis Hamilton to win another title, as the sport had been reeling from Mercedes' dominance throughout the turbo era. And because of this, when Masi had the opportunity to tilt the balance of the title fight in Max Verstappen's favor, he did it. However, such suggestions fall flat if we just rewind the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to the first lap of the race, where Lewis Hamilton went off the track at turn 6 and gained an advantage, but was neither asked to give back the position to Max Verstappen or back off sufficiently so that the advantage was nullified. Talking about the incident, should Lewis have given back the position to Max? It was a 50-50 decision in my view, as some thought he was pushed off the track while the others thought he gained an undue advantage. If the race director was inclined to give any kind of favoritism to Max Verstappen, then he would have done it at this very point. With Max Verstappen back in the lead, the complexion of the race and the title battle would have changed completely, and it could have been in Verstappen's favor as well. Yet, when Red Bull reached out to Masi to plead their case, Masi shut them down and allowed the race to carry on. Now, this is just one of the many instances throughout the season where marginal decisions went in Hamilton's favor as well, and they do completely nullify the suggestions of Max Verstappen benefiting from an inherent favoritism from Michael Masi or F1. Now, with that out of the way, let's look at what happened and what contributed to the Abu Dhabi debacle. The first thing that needs to be called out is the utter failure of the public radio messages between the teams and the race director. The job of the race director is intense enough. To add to it the element of answering to the Mercedes and Red Bull representatives while the world listens and critiques your every move just pushed things out of control. We had Toto Wolff emailing diagrams to Michael Masi during the British Grand Prix. We had Christian Horner butting in at various intervals throughout the season. Then in the last race of the season, we had Toto Wolff openly lobbying race direction to not bring out the safety car, and well, finally, of course, who can forget the infamous "No Mikey No" radio message by Toto Wolff at the end of the race. The open channel of communication was a tool meant to be used as a gateway for the fans to have an access of the behind the scenes action during a Formula 1 race. However, it was turned into a public negotiation platform by the teams and further complicated matters. Imagine working at a high intensity job in front of the entire world, with people questioning you on every move, with global audience witnessing each and every snippet of the conversation that you have. That's just an impossible environment to do the job to the best of your ability. And this was the situation that Michael Masi found himself in. In the end, it was a no-win situation for Masi, and he ended up committing the debacle at the end of the season. Looking at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix on its own can lead to people missing out on the true context or the bigger picture of what Michael Masi had in mind when he went racing at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. To an extent, what happened at Abu Dhabi had something to do with what had happened earlier in the season in the Belgian Grand Prix. To refresh the memory for some, last season's Belgian Grand Prix was severely impacted by torrential conditions throughout the weekend. The weekend featured wet conditions that were borderline dangerous on occasions, and this led to the race getting cancelled after a handful of laps getting completed behind the safety car. While the drivers were awarded half the points for the positions they finished in, calling the Belgian Grand Prix a race was a farce in so many ways, as there was not even a single lap of racing that was completed. F1 had come under a lot of scrutiny for what happened at Belgium, as the race ended behind the safety car without any kind of racing. Most of the criticism in that scenario was directed towards Michael Masi on that occasion as well. Now coming to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, it could be argued that Michael Masi was under severe pressure to not let the last race of the season end behind a safety car. And because of that, he did whatever he could to, in his own words, go racing on the last lap of the race. Now, if we talk about Michael Masi exclusively, then I do feel it's safe to say that the race director was put in a situation where he had to navigate his way through some critical decisions in the race. At the same time, he had to answer this sometimes childish rants from Mercedes and Red Bull, and through it all, he had to make sure that he did not face another backlash in the media because another race ended behind a safety car. This was a classical case of an official being overburdened by too many things at the same time, which was truly a recipe for disaster. Did Michael Masi handle the situation in the best possible way? No, not really. But is he the one to be solely blamed for the debacle at Abu Dhabi? No, not at all. You're setting people up for disaster if you overburden them with too many things, and this was a classical case of that happening. Yes, Masi did make a mess at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but this doesn't mean that firing him is going to make everything right. Now this is what the focus should have been on instead of calling for the race director's head all this time. If we are talking about the changes that need to be made, then the first has to be keeping the communication between the teams and the race direction private. The intended benefit of such a thing was not realized last season, as it became nothing more than a lobbying channel. The second has to be clarity on how F1 wants to pursue racing in the future. There were clear instances of Michael Masi not being entirely sure of the direction he wanted the race to take. If there was clarity, then the lapped cars could have been moved out of the way much earlier, and the controversy around only a few lapped cars unlapping themselves would not have even been there. And thirdly, there needs to be a clear directive from the FIA on how they proceed in certain situations. The late lap crash in Abu Dhabi and the aftermath was an example of F1 trying to go racing when something like this happens. Even though in the past, F1 has been relatively okay with races ending under the safety car. However, if that is how they want to approach racing from now onwards, then it should be made clear to the teams and the fans to prevent backlash in the future. Jenson Button recently made a pretty good point where he stated that it's the lack of clarity that has hurt the sport most, and that is what is needed to be taken care of. Instead of developing a mob mentality and going after Michael Masi's head, this is probably the best time to analyze what went wrong and fix it. Getting rid of Michael Masi would just be the ideal example of nothing more than a symbolic gesture which does nothing for the sport in any which way. And maybe this is the perfect time for the sport to not act in a symbolic manner and rather make concrete decisions for something like this not to happen ever again. So these were my views about the whole Michael Masi saga. What do you guys think? Do let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and please like, share and subscribe to support the channel. Take care all of you, and see you next time.